Welcome back to Boulder Business. Today we have a special guest, very special guest, Todd Jenkins with Jenkins Roofing.
Yes, sir.
All right, special guest because Todd is one of my very best friends. I've known Todd since, as the kids say, the 1900s. So we go way back.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So Todd, what we'll do today, a couple things. So Todd is an investor in Boulder. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about Boulder. But we usually do that at the end. But I really want to talk about your business.
Nice.
I want to talk about actually your whole career because you've got tons of good experience I think people could learn from.
Cool.
So give us a quick update, like high level resume of your experience, and then I'll drill in and we'll obviously talk about the business side.
Okay. Well, I met Paul back at Texas Tech. We were in a fraternity together. He was my big brother. And so we had a lot of fun times up there. Probably some stories that I don't know if we want to tell here.
That's right. We're glad Facebook and stuff wasn't in existence back then.
Exactly right. But yeah, Paul actually helped me. Originally, I was an accounting major. Paul was the master accountant, still is, I'm sure. But Paul helped me with accounting for enough for me to know that was not my thing.
There you go.
So moved over to finance.
Took me longer to figure that out.
Yeah. But yeah, got my degree from Texas Tech, moved back home. I grew up here in Grand Prairie. And so when I went to Tech, came back and worked in insurance for a few years. So worked at Nationwide Insurance up in Fort Worth.
There you go.
And I loved that job. It was a really great experience to get into and learn the insurance world. And so I sold property and casualty, life and disability, and all that sort of thing for a few years. And then moved over to Fidelity Investments in like 2005. And so that's where you and I worked together for a little while.
That's right.
And
we competed.
We did.
You always beat me.
No.
Yeah, you did.
No, well, maybe. You were more of I was maybe better at the sales side,
That's right.
but you were way better at all the other things that needed the big brain. So...
you were always ahead of me in the rank, though.
Well, I'm competitive.
That's right. That's right.
And so after Fidelity, my boss's boss from Fidelity started her own company back in about 2009.
Yes.
And it was a marketing business. And so we did marketing for financial advisors, specifically CFAs and all kinds of different financial advisors across the country. We did new business generation, lead generation for them. And so we spent about 10 years there or so working on growing that business from 3 employees to about 30 employees. And it was a fun time. I mean, I learned a lot. Running a cold calling business is something that's very interesting. And, it doesn't have the best reputation across the country. And I think there's even laws that have come out lately that are making it harder for cold callers to do their thing. But it still is something that, if you understand that business, you understand that, you're not going for a large percentage of success. You just need a small percentage of success.
Take a lot of swings.
And so that was an interesting business. I mean, the leads that we sold there were roughly $2,000 to $3,000 per lead.
Wow.
So it was a very high end lead gen business. It wasn't just $25 a lead or whatever, right? So it was interesting business. And then that's kind of when my whole world changed when my dad passed. So, I grew up in the roofing business, arm's length, obviously, with my grandfather and my father running the company before me. But didn't really have plans to do that. I was going to be an office guy, a sales guy, a marketing guy, whatever, seemed like for the rest of my career until he passed suddenly. So back in 2018, actually 7 years ago, back in February, he was just watching the Super Bowl and fell asleep and had a widowmaker heart attack. And we didn't expect that. He didn't expect that. He was running the business pretty much by himself, and he had been for almost 40 years after he took over for his father. So so it was a shock to the whole family. It took us a good little week or two to just even figure out what are we doing, because I have siblings and my mom, and we were just trying to figure out what we're doing about the funeral and things. But we also knew that the business had to probably keep going because, I'm sure we'll talk about it. But I'm probably ranting here. But
no, you're good. I remember I was mid-roof.
That's right.
Passed.
So we were in the middle of doing your job.
And we're like, hey, we gotta figure this out and that.
You're
out.
like, I got this big $30,000 check.
A great job because I mean, you kept it going smooth for me. Obviously, I knew what was going on and challenges there. But okay, perfect. Great resume. I want to dig into 2 parts of it. One, the cold calling business, and 2, obviously the roofing business. So let's start with the cold calling. In a way, you were part of the startup team. almost like co-founder to some extent, because you had some equity in it, right?
It was me and the two partners. Yeah, had some equity. Yeah.
So that's like you've basically been running two different businesses model wise. You've been in the startup side of it, and then you came into a legacy business. And I want to talk about the differences in your opinion and kind of what skills were needed and how you succeeded with both those. Let's start with the cold calling business, which was startup. Like you said, 3 employees, grew it to 30. What are some of the lessons you've learned, things you've kind of felt helped make you successful in that stage of the business?
Yeah, I think number one is education and confidence, right? So connections is super important. So, that business, I obviously was maybe the part of the engine getting it going and making things happen. But the two partners that I was with that were very high level at Fidelity, they had tons of connections and we had a process, right? So what I've noticed about both of those, whether it's a startup or with the roofing business that was already 50 years old when I took over, is it's all about the process, right? So we had already had years and years of success at Fidelity, and what we were basically selling was leads for financial advisors that wanted to sell B2B 401k plans, right? Okay. So they were working with businesses, not individuals. And the value to them was that this was a diversification play within their business to get more retirement plans as a part of their book of business. And so rather than just having a bunch of individuals where when the market's up or down, they're having, calls coming in, what's going on with my account? When you have a 401k plan, the participants are always putting money in their 401k because of contributions, right? So it's a very consistent way of generating revenue stream for an advisor. And that's pretty much what we had spent way before I got there at Fidelity. They had been selling 401k plans forever, right? So we were in the small business market, working mainly plans from 500,000 all the way up to 50 million or whatever, right? So there's bigger plans like your huge oil companies and all those sort of things. There's different division, but there's obviously many more small businesses across the country than there are the huge ones, right? The Fortune 500. So what our goal was there at Fidelity was to try and win as much business as possible from other providers, get people to Fidelity Direct, and get them a new 401k plan with Fidelity. So we built a model on how to cold calling business within Fidelity that was very successful and had, like I said, tons of processes and procedures and scripting and everything that we knew the model. Yeah. So that's kind of the model that we created over there.
So using your experience from the bigger company, the job, to create the process for the startup.
Correct. Yeah. Take a big business idea and big business processes where there's tons of money behind it to prove it out, and then go do it on your own is pretty much what we did. Right.
Got it.
So there was other aspects to it as far as, CRM consulting and other business consulting that we did to help them grow their business. And because many of the advisors we worked with were new to the 401k game. So they were trying to use our experiences and our consulting to help them figure that out. But they it was really that expertise that we had before, where we weren't doing anything really new. It was a new business, but not a new business to us. It was just new customers, pretty much. Instead of calling for ourselves, we were calling for other people.
Yep. All right. Marcus Lemonis, who's the prophet on CNBC, breaks down businesses, and he says it really just comes down to people, process, product. So you said, hey, in the startup, that process is key, which I 100% agree with. The people side of it, did you find early on when you started with 3 people, obviously the 2 founders yourself, as you started to add people, was it pretty obvious when people were not a good fit and you kind of got to make changes? Like, walk us through kind of the people side of a startup and the challenges that come with that.
So the first several employees that we brought on were also people from Fidelity.
Okay.
So people we knew.
So you brought quality people on.
Yep. I think that also has been a mirror in both businesses for me. Is it's all about who you know.
Yes.
And knowing your commodities and your employees. Your employees, I think, are your most important part 100%. Of your business. But I mean, obviously having the process is number one, but the next is who are you bringing in?
Yeah.
And so, the first several people we brought in over there were people we already knew, and people that were interested in that idea of, like, this is something that is a startup, right? So we had the air hockey table in the office. We had all the fun things that you would want, the freedom to basically, get rid of your card, to have to check into the gate and have thousands of people there. You got like a few people, and it's a risk return thing, right?
Yeah. But you got the startup vibe a little bit.
Exactly. The startup vibe was very cool. And so as we grew, I mean, certainly, there was a few levels, right? There was the consulting level, which more higher end folks, and then there was the cold callers, right? And so, I think in that aspect, it takes a special breed, and we knew 100%. How to hire that breed. So we knew what we were looking for. We knew what questions to ask in the interviews and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's a turnover thing, right? You're going to have 30 to 40% every year of the employees turning over, but we tried to keep it really tight, as best we could. And that interview process is really what the key was to that.
Yep.
But you're just in that business, you're always going to have folks that are just like, I thought I could do it and I couldn't do 100%. It, or if they haven't tried it before. So it's interesting. But we had technology. Another thing that's really important to me over the years is technology, right?
Okay.
So we had
pause on that. I'm going to come back to that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I think that should be a whole topic. A few things you triggered. The people is key. The interview process is key. I volunteered at Chick-fil-A. A friend of mine owns Chick-fil-A. I say volunteer.
I remember that.
I helped out to learn what they do. And I remember asking the owner of that Chick-fil-A, how do y'all get such good people? How do you teach people how to be so good?
Right.
And he said, it's not about training, it's about hiring. And so he said, you hire the people with the smiles. You can teach the skills,
right,
but the personalities you're looking for in the interview process.
Yeah, it's really smart.
I think that's, obviously Chick-fil-A does a lot more than just the right hiring, but
for sure,
that's a big part of it. Okay, walk me through one more question on the cold calling side of things, then we'll transition over to the big business and we'll talk technology and all that fun stuff too. Take me through your numbers, because when you're cold calling, it's all about how many dials you're making, how many contacts you're making. Did y'all kind of have a model with every X number of contacts usually equals a lead or whatever it was?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a few years now, but it's stuff you'd never forget. So we had a minimum of 100 phone calls a day.
Wow.
So it's really not that much, truthfully. I mean, that's the thing that's interesting to me. I'd had some people that could do 200 in a day, right?
Yep.
And then other people that could really struggled with 50.
Yep.
But really, if you're sitting down and you're dedicated to your job and you're working for an hour and then taking a break and that sort of thing, you can easily make 20 calls in an hour very easily.
Yeah. If you're just leaving messages.
You're leaving messages and that sort of thing. What we ended up getting pretty good at with the technology side was more of an auto dialer approach.
Okay. Which is very popular now.
Very popular. Yeah. And I
by the sender, not the receivers.
No,
I know when I'm getting an auto dial, I'm like,
exactly.
Click.
Yes. And so that was the thing that we realized with trying some of that technology out is when people know it's an auto dial because it takes a second, there is that you do lose
100%,
some credibility, because that was kind of the thing. And it, I would estimate that a large percentage of cold calling that's happening in the U.S. today is actually done overseas, and we just get the calls.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know those stats, but we were always, if you got a call from me or you as a cold call and somebody was really good on the phone and had a really good script, you might think differently than, the calls that we get all the time where it's like very quickly, like I'm hanging up.
It takes 2 seconds to even pick up the phone.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's a time and place for everything. And from that perspective, if your dollar amount you're paying for that service is low and you're getting people that may not speak great English, but they're getting basically churning through the mud and getting a few results, that's a different model than maybe the one we were working with, which was we would get about 100 phone calls to have about 20 quality conversations, and then we typically would produce about 2 appointments from those.
There you go. So 2% success rate was kind of your goal, and it's all about the volume.
Right.
I remember a story, Brian, one of our mutual friends, his daughter was going out selling Girl Scout cookies. She was like, I got to sell 50 boxes. Dad, help me out.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite stories that he's ever done. You probably know it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he goes, I'm not going to buy your cookies. I'm not going to buy 50 boxes, but I'll make you a deal. Every 10 houses you knock on, if you get 10 no's in a row, I'll buy a box. Nice. She never got 10 in a row.
Oh, I'll bet.
And it just comes down to sales is as much about skill and quality of what you say and how you say it as it is just hustle. Right. Get out there and make the numbers.
For sure.
Okay, cool. Let's now transition. Like you said, drastic life change for you and your father passed. I remember that vividly. Talk us through when you came in.
Yep.
And this is a legacy business. How long had the business been running between your grandfather and your father by the time you came in?
So it was exactly almost 50 years.
50 years.
Yeah. So my grandfather started in Grand Prairie in 1968, and then my dad took over roughly in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yep.
They worked together for several years. Okay. I remember them throwing ashtrays at each other in the office and things like that when I was a little kid. But no, I mean, it was, family businesses can be tough, right? My granny, my mom all worked in the office together. And so, the business definitely morphed over that 80s and 90s period. And, I remember lots of really good years and lots of rough years.
Sure.
I mean, there was definitely years where we lost money and the business wasn't doing well, but that's, I think any small business can probably relate to that. You're not going to have every single year be a banner year.
Yep.
And so yeah, it was, we always cheered for the hailstorms, and had a great Christmas every year when it was a nice hailstorm. But I remember lots of, because my mom and dad ran the business together for that whole time for the most part. And I remember lots of conversations that, they probably didn't want to have around kids, but it's just, they're working together, business. Right? Family business. So, yeah, when that happened, he had been running the business for roughly 40 years with my mom. And the last several years, I remember a lot of conversations about when is he going to retire, and when is he going to hang it up, and who's he going to sell the business to, and what's he going to do? Because we didn't really have any plan for me or my brother or my sister.
There wasn't a succession plan already in place.
Not at all.
Got it.
No processes written down. There's really no employees to speak of, because in roofing, most of the people that actually do the work are all subcontractors. But so we had all these subs that were great that we'd used for 20 plus years. And that's why our customers keep coming back to us. Is certainly they loved my dad, but they loved the work that was done.
Yeah,
and
quality.
So the quality subcontractors were there, and we had everything kind of laid out, but none of us really knew, besides my mom, how everything kind of worked. Wow. And so we got together, and as a family, my sister and brother both have their own businesses. My sister has a mortgage business. My brother's in commercial real estate. And, they were like, you're the only guy that can kind of just quit his job and go do this. And we think you're a great fit. My brother actually worked for my dad for a few years, and he was like, this is not something I really want to do.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, I kind of quit my job or took a month leave and started running the business.
Okay.
For my mom, because my mom was devastated and could barely even, function for a long time. So started running the crews and just starting to figure it out. Because at the end of the day, like, the one thing we did know was that this business is not going to have near as much value to somebody else looking from the outside as it does to us.
For sure.
Because we just know what it could be. I always knew what it could be. Not that my dad did a bad job. He did an amazing job. He just barely knew how to turn on a computer, right? And it's just, he was old school as it gets. And actually a lot of customers, even today, I still have customers calling and ask where Jack's at, and because they haven't had a roof done in 10 years, so they don't know. But they love, all of them really love the person that he was and how he treated them, and they remember that experience. But they also remember how, like, he was a handshake guy. Everything was very much like, there wasn't any e-signing or or pay online. It was all just, let me come pick up a check or whatever, and he was on top of everything. So yeah, that's kind of how we got to that process of figuring out what we want to do, and we kind of all decided I would make it happen. Okay,
so you step in. Let's talk technology now. I do remember you telling me, like, you put some technology in place that I think really helped. What were some of the first things you did to kind of modernize the processes?
Well, the first thing we did was, at Fidelity, as well as the other company that we worked with, we use Salesforce.com, which is, widely used.
We use it at Boulder.
Yep. In the roofing industry, there's actually less than like 1% of roofers that use that system. So I kind of like that, because I think it's just because everybody uses the same thing, which is built for roofers, right? Okay. With Salesforce, for people that don't know, it's a CRM system that's probably got 75% market share for big companies, but it's very customizable. So we still customize it every year regularly, but we've spent probably $40,000 over the years just customizing that system to work perfectly for our business. Wow. So whether it be automations that occur and processes that occur and everything like that, it's about CRM. But started out with just basically taking everything that I could find. We literally went through boxes and boxes from 10 years of my dad's handwritten invoices. Wow. We had to go through every box to get those into a spreadsheet, to get those into the system. Yep. Because there's got to be thousands of customers from the years before that we just don't know, but they're probably moved out of their home anyway. Yep. But yeah, the first few months was just a lot about just getting data off of paper into a spreadsheet, and then getting that spreadsheet into our CRM so we could know who it was, where they lived, how much they spent on their roofing repair, roofing replacement, or whatever we did for them, and then getting it all into the system. That was kind of priority one. Okay. Besides, obviously, making sure that you and the customers that we were kind of in the middle of working with were getting serviced.
Of course. All right. So going into a legacy business, taking over, got to kind of modernize things a little bit. Take me through, you can share whatever details you're comfortable with or whatever, but if you came in and the business was at X level, I know you've grown it. How have you grown it? Like adding what, doing different services, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then how much have you grown it for what you're comfortable sharing, percentages or whatever?
Yeah. It's definitely grown a lot. I mean, my dad, I remember, he was very, very smart man and the hardest working man I've ever met in my life. I mean, my dad, notoriously, there's a couple of roofing supply houses that we worked with over the years, one of them here in Grand Prairie. And, they actually helped me a ton after this happened to just kind of show me the ropes. Because they were very close with my dad. He worked with him forever, for decades, right? But he was notoriously the guy that his truck would be at the roofing supply house at 5:30 in the morning every morning.
Wow.
Before anyone would show up, he would be there, kind of like you would see a sports person getting to the locker room before anybody.
Sure.
He would be at the supply house to follow the material to the job site every morning.
Wow.
I mean, what kind of owner has that kind of dedication?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Really, for that long.
Like for that, and that's just all he knew how to do. Like he just was all about it. And he would be home at like 6 or 7 at night every night, right? Yep. So he burned the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what ended up hurting him in the end. But that's all he loved work, and I think it's something that we see in our family. Like I think we just are all workaholics at some level. But I kind of forgot the question originally, but it was basically how did we grow it, right?
How have you? Yeah. So that was great background on your father, but when you stepped in, I know in the last 8 years, 7 years, you've grown it. And sure. I'm trying to figure out, like we're trying to give, so people watching the show, right? Some people might be stepping into a family legacy business and things are a little chaotic and different. How did you stabilize things? But then how did you ultimately, what I'm asking here is how have you grown it?
Yeah.
Because you've done a great job with the business.
Well, the first thing that I did was we spent almost about 1.5 years or 2 years with just me.
Okay.
So I didn't go out and hire a bunch of people. I was scared to death, truthfully. Just not wanting to ruin it. Sure. I did not want the legacy to die. I didn't want my mom to be feeling like I ruined the business or anything like that.
The pressure of the family legacy on your shoulders.
Sure. Because I've had, not in this business, but over the years, you've heard of multiple generation legacy businesses failing because at some point, some kid just
can't keep it going.
Is not the right person. Yep. And they just got the business because they had the last name.
Yes.
And so, I knew I was good at business. I knew I was good at sales. I knew I'd be successful at a very deep core of my body, but there's always that fear behind, you're just thinking, what if you get too far over your skis or what, you don't know what you're doing, that sort of thing. And so, like I said, I relied on a lot of folks that were close to my dad to, including the crews that all knew how to do it. My dad was on the job, every job, like, kicking people off the roof if they weren't doing it right. And he was all over it. Yes. So like by the time I got it, like it was already like everybody knew exactly the Jack way of doing things.
Yes.
So luckily I didn't have to come in there and be the product expert, even though I had to take time to learn all that.
Yep.
I had people that I could really rely on, that I could trust. And my dad would even tell me like, these are my real sons as a joke. But like, these are the people that actually do what I tell them to do. And when I come home, you guys just go wild and do whatever you want.
Right. That's right.
But no, there was a trust there that my dad had with his employees and a true love, like a family business type of love that was shared. But he was hard too, in that he wouldn't let you mess up. And so you had to do it in the right way that was going to produce quality. So that's what I had to go off of. So that's how I was able to do it. And originally by myself, with my help of my mom and other people, was to just learn the business truly before I started trying to grow it.
Okay.
So like with Boulder, even a lot of the stuff you did with Chick-fil-A and all the things you tried to do before, you wanted to learn.
And our first 2 years has been mostly learning.
Yes.
Before we're even growing.
And unfortunately, you couldn't do it by yourself with low expenses.
No, we cannot. We'll get to that.
But yeah, so that was that. Literally, I was pinching pennies like crazy because I really didn't have a good idea of how much money the company was making or should be making. We were just trying to grasp at straws to keep it all going.
100%.
And so luckily, like I said, I had those resources behind me to help me. And then about 1.5 years, 2 years in, I started hiring a couple of folks. So the first person we had already had on staff, actually our oldest working employee is Ariel. She runs our front office and answers the phones and does tons of things for our business. But she was already there for a year before me, right? So she kind of already knew the process of how my dad did everything and how he liked to handle things. And so she kind of helped a lot. And then we started to realize that, I was running and gunning for a while, like literally every deal like my dad I was selling, but I was even doing, I think, some more because of the technology, right? Oh, yeah. So when you're writing everything down on paper and when you're having to go to every single person's house to do every single thing by yourself, you know, it's efficiency is really hard. Yeah. And so efficiency is actually one of our 5 core values, and it's what I'm all about. So not to say that I want to have, because ultimately the reason we have core values is to get a good customer experience. Yep. That's our number one goal, is customer experience above everything. Yeah. And so if we're efficient with our time, then we can provide a good customer experience. And so what I realized was I was able to be pretty efficient based on technology and getting things done a little differently than my dad did. Yep. And that's what helped me to kind of start figuring out, okay, now I need to add some people after a while. And so about 2 years in, we started hiring a couple of folks. We hired a salesperson, an operations manager. And at this point now we have about 14 or 15 on staff. People running everything from back office to front office to operations to supplementing claims to selling the jobs and everywhere in between. Okay, so summarize, and I've got a few questions to come up with this. When you came in, or let's say before your dad passed, obviously you have all the different subs, right? And count them as employees per se. How many employees did he have? 0. I mean, besides Ariel at the office. And Ariel, and they worked out of their home. Subs. So she would go to their house, work upstairs in the office and handle all. My dad would bring home everything that he wrote down. And Ariel would transpose that into a Word document. So 2 of them. Now you're at how many? 14. Incredible. People. Okay. So I mean, you know, and I get asked this question a lot. So I'm big into like, mastermind stuff. I work with a few other roofing companies that we get together every quarter or 2. Nice. And we talk about our businesses. We talk about how we're growing, how we can do things, because there's thousands of roofing companies in town. We're not worried about competing with each other. We're worried about making each other better. But there's other businesses and consulting firms that I work with. And one of the things that they always talk about is like, what do you want the business to be? How big do you want it to be, and all that sort of thing. And it's hard sometimes because I have realized that, sometimes bigger is not always better. Just because you can be growing and making more money doesn't mean it's what you really want or need. And so I've had a keen pulse on where we want to be and how big we want to be. And, we don't want to be the biggest roofing company in town. We want to be the oldest, but we don't want to be the biggest, but we just want to really do a great job. And I want to enrich the lives of others. Love it. So that's the one thing I've really got a kick out of is, most of the people that work for me are friends or family, really. We only have a few folks that we've kind of hired from outside, and it's been great to see them flourish and thrive and make great money and make customers happy, and everything's a win-win-win all the way around. So most of the people we've brought on are people that I've known, friends, family. Yeah. And I already know their core competencies, right? So hiring the right people. It's been interesting. But I think the thing that makes our roofing business so different from most is obviously our longevity in the business, but the fact that 95% of our business is inbound leads. Got it. We don't knock doors. We don't cold call. It's everything we can do right now to just keep up with all the calls that are coming in from the windstorm the other day. Oh, right? I bet. So it makes it great for, not that the salespeople are just quote unquote order takers, right? Yeah, because they still got to do their thing, but it's way better than having to go knock 100 doors to go get a deal. Absolutely. And that's what most roofing companies have to do. And that's why most companies, when they talk, or most, when I'm at a cocktail party or whatever, and people are like, oh, you're a roofing company. Yeah, I had 15 roofers knock on my door this week. That's not you. And that's not us. But I mean, I'd like it to be. Yeah. I wouldn't mind. I mean, getting more business. But at the end of the day, we're trying to get really good at understanding who we are, where we want to be. So our vision is really important to our growth. And so when we meet quarterly and annually to talk about our vision of where the company is going in 10 years, 3 years, 5 years, we do that regularly with all employees. Wow. To make sure that they understand what my vision is for the company and that everything that we do is leading towards that vision. Okay.
You mentioned core values, 5. You told us one of them, efficiency.
Yeah.
Take us through them.
So it's TIKI is the acronym, like a tiki torch.
Okay.
But it's trust, efficiency, accountability, kindness, and innovation.
Okay.
And so, with each of them, the way that I came to those was, in that first year, I met with a leadership coach, and they had these 100 cards that were core values, right? And you can have lots of different core values within a business, but the exercise was to take the 100 and then separate them into 2 stacks. Like, these aren't really me, these are me. Then you do it again. Then you do it again, and you get down to like 10, and then 5, and so yeah, these were the ones that spoke to me the most. There's lots of others that I'm sure would be a fit, but these are the ones that spoke to me the most in that they're duplicitous in the fact that it works for our customers, but also works for our employees and our team, right?
Yep.
So, we have to trust that whenever we sell a job and we get everything down in the work order that needs to be done based on what we met with the customer about, that they want their gutters fixed here, they want a downspout over here, they want to pay attention to this broken rafter over here. All those sort of things have to be appropriately put into a work order for the team to be able to produce it correctly. Because there's lots of roofers in town where, like my dad, where he was the man doing everything the whole way through. But for us to be efficient, which is another core value, we have to make sure that we have the proper handoff so that other parts of the team are successful and that they're not getting half the story.
Right.
So trust is on that front end, that we're trusting our teammates that we're going to do the right thing to get that customer experience 5-star. But it's also the customer can trust that we're going to be around in 20 years to handle their issues because we've been around 57, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going anywhere.
That's right.
And so they can trust that we're going to do the right thing for them versus cutting corners, because there's tons of roofers out there, the chucks into trucks, as they call them, that are just out there to make a buck, and they got a pretty big criminal record, whatever it is, right? There's an industry reputation sometimes with roofers that's not true a lot of times, but there are people out there that are bad actors that are just not there for the right reasons. And so we're there for the right reasons to do the right thing for every customer. And so the next one, efficiency, we talked about a little bit earlier, but it's all about just using your time wisely, right? And using technology, innovation to make your day and your week and your month as efficient as it can be, so that we're not wasting time, because time is all we got.
Yeah.
We're all about trying to make sure that we're efficient with our team members, that everybody does their thing when they do it well. Kindness, obviously, or accountability, sorry.
Yes.
So accountability is tough, right? Because, the first thing I think we all have a difficult time is being accountable to ourselves.
Fact.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's something that I think is the one we struggle with the most out of our core values, because accountability can be tough, but it's got to be there. Oh, it's tough, man. I mean, we all, if we really were true with ourselves, we would realize that we're missing the boat on some things, whether it be daily, weekly, whatever. But we're accountable to each other and to our clients, and the kindness is just who I am.
I love that.
So when you talked about Chick-fil-A earlier, the people are kind, right? And if you're kind, you get a lot more done.
Yes.
Whether you're influencing people or whatever, people want to talk to people that are kind, and that's just something that when we hire, we look for.
I love that.
And then innovation. So innovation and technology are both together in that last one. And it's just, whether it be us doing solar shingles now and really focusing on that, or just whatever we can do to be the most innovative roofer within reason, is something we're going to do. So innovation is one of our core values as well.
And on innovation, I believe part of the way you grew the business following your father's passing was adding different levels of service and construction services. And so transitioning to Boulder. Boulder, if you ever walk into Boulder and you see anything in the park made of wood, it was built by Jenkins Roofing. And so I would imagine that side of the business, you really added and innovated. Am I right in that?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my dad definitely would do some projects here and there, but roofing has always been one of our bread is buttered. But I mean, it's hard for me to say no. Right. And that's one of the things that I learned early on that I was really having a hard time with, is when do I say no to a job?
Okay.
Because it's actually more important knowing which ones you got to say no to than it is the ones you say yes to.
And you found, which ones do you now say no to? Like, what are
it's all about the customer.
Okay.
Right. I mean, what I've always I actually think it's a good business idea. I just don't know how if I have time to mess with it, but there's a better business bureau. There should be a better customer bureau.
Wow.
Where you get an F or an A or whatever.
Well, Uber rates the customer too.
Yeah. I mean, because I promise you there's some red flags that if you've been in business any length of time, you know what to look for. But yeah, it's about the customer, right? So like if it's a roof, it's not as big of a deal because we're in and out in a day or two, but if we're going to be remodeling an entire house or a kitchen or a bathroom or whatever, and you don't have the right customer that's not a fit for your core values, then it's something we just don't want to do business with.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's been the hardest thing to learn, or the hardest thing to figure out, is which jobs to say no to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, let's now transition to the second part of this. Your involvement in Boulder, like I mentioned, I mean, heck, you built everything in there with wood. You're one of my best friends. You're an investor in Boulder. Let's start with my admission of I don't give as many updates as I need to. And I know that because I'm, like you said, accountability, and I'm so busy with other stuff.
Sure.
My commitment this year is to give a lot more updates. So as an investor, are there like questions that you've always wanted to ask? Put me on the spot, buddy. Or what should we discuss? Like anything on your mind? Obviously I can take you through a few things that I want your input on, but.
Well, we get to talk quite a bit,
For sure.
so I get updates maybe more than some others.
Fair.
I think the thing that I always think about is just the grind, that I don't think anyone maybe even realizes that it is, and the weight of it sometimes, right?
Go.
The pressure.
Sure.
I mean, like I said, it was pressure for me for a little while, but I'm sure there's pressure for you times 10 in some areas, right?
Nonstop. 100%.
And so I think that's the thing that, versus updates, I know we're going to be successful with it. I know it's going to, it's something that if anyone thought in the first couple of years, any small business like that's an amusement park is going to just go gangbusters.
Yeah. It takes time.
It takes time. Right. So I think
I was that naive person. Like, we'll just open the doors. You build it, they will come.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a minute, you got to do marketing and all this other stuff that I'm messing up on. Like, there's a lot to learn.
No, but I've been always I've had a lot of admiration for how you've handled, bumps along the way, because there's been a few, and I think
plenty.
I think it's something that the updates that I don't probably ask enough is like, how you doing?
No, I appreciate that.
Because I'm sure, like I said, there's lots of times when, there's just highs and lows that are,
for sure.
It's hard to maybe stay even keel.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I would want to know most about, is like, how do you manage that emotional ride and roller coaster?
Yeah, I mean, it. Your first year or two taking over your father's business, that stress, that pressure is present. And I'm in the midst of that now, right? I always say we're a toddler business right now. We're 2 years old. Newborn business was different. Toddler business is different. I hope adolescence different. And eventually we become a mature business, which you're now a mature business, right? And I'm sure the stresses and the challenges are different than in my case with a toddler. As far as how I'm doing, I think, honestly, this is a heartfelt moment from me to you. Like, you've helped me so much. Like, I'm going through a hard time personally, obviously professionally, there's a lot on my plate. Having friends and people you can trust and lean on and be vulnerable with is key. Right. And you've been that for me. And, heart to heart, like, I love you and thank you, because it is very hard. And the stress is real, but having someone I know, like, man, if I'm in a pinch, I call Todd, he's going to help me out. There's several friends that I have that for, but you're one of the top ones that have been there through the good and the bad. Sure. And it's been incredible. So for anyone out there, having someone, if you're in a better position that you can be there for somebody else, or if you're in a tough position and you need to find someone, like, that's the key. It's the network of people that you can trust and lean on has helped me tremendously, and you're one of the top people there.
Well, I appreciate that, but I know you are also, just to say, like, very clearly the person that I would know would be there for me too. Yeah. Right.
I hope to return that favor.
No,
I hope you never need the favor.
Yeah. You would be my number one call. Right.
There you go.
So yeah, I think that's nice to have, but yeah, I know, Boulder has been fun for me to not only do, we go out there all the time. My kids go out there all the time. They love it. But just being able to be there through that process of getting it built was a lifetime experience.
That was wild times.
It was so wild. Just like,
one time we'll come into an episode just about construction. Oh gosh, yeah. You want to talk about a shit show. Construction was rough. Yeah. We got it done.
We did.
Oh boy, because we had to do construction. Not only had I never done construction before, but I GC'd like all the custom stuff.
yeah.
We had a GC that did all the traditional building stuff, but I self GC'd the really
and you were on top
stuff.
of things, man.
I was there every day. Like
you're in that Connex with your hard hat on and your vest every day.
I was up there.
Yeah.
But what was crazy about construction is we also did it right in the midst of inflation going wild.
Right.
I remember calling for a steel quote, and steel had not moved. You look at a quote from steel for the last 10 years prior to COVID, steel prices were relatively flat. I remember calling for a steel quote because we had so much steel in the park, and they were like, yeah, here's the quote. It's good for 30 minutes. I'm like, 30 minutes? Like, I'm not buying this for a week or two. Right. Oh, well, then call us back when you're ready to buy it. And it changed 20% in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And steel was one of our largest expenses. So that was wild. We'll definitely do an episode on construction because we can have some funny stories, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, I got a fun question for you. All right. I'm going to make you Boulder CEO for one day.
Ooh.
What are you gonna, what would you do if you're CEO for one day to make things better?
Interesting.
Based on what you've seen.
Well, I'm really actually excited about this customized ticketing system that you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really important because, at least from what I've found, is I think it's hard to get people to want to know what it is or come in the door as 100%. Easily as you'd think.
Yep.
Because like the videos kind of explain themselves, but when I talk to people that don't know what it is, it's hard to kind of explain.
Yeah, it's not a water park where it's like, oh, I know I'm going to the water park.
Right.
Buy a ticket.
There's so many different things to do. It's kind of hard to pinpoint it. And, people want to say rock climbing, you know.
But it's so much more.
It's kind of not just that, right? So, or it's not at all like that only. So I think the ticketing thing is interesting because I think just getting folks in the door gets that experience to where they want to tell others about it.
Yep.
And then also they're going to spend money in the park, right?
For sure.
I think that ticketing thing where it's like when we're high traffic, it's a little more. When we're low traffic, it's a little less. And it gets
dynamic pricing.
Dynamic pricing. That's a good word. Yeah, that's it. So I like that idea. I think you're doing a great job, man. I wouldn't do anything different than what you're doing.
There's a few things we could do different. We'll figure those out when we become an adolescent business. We're still a toddler. All right. Awesome episode. Todd Jenkins from Jenkins Roofing. We learned about how he helped with the startup, and I think the key there was get the right people in place with process is key, and took over a legacy business in a very trying time in your life with your family and all of that, and it's just done an amazing job. So I have the highest amount of respect for you. An incredible businessman. If you do need a roof or any level of like home construction in the DFW area, definitely call Jenkins Roofing. That's a plug. This is sponsored by Jenkins Roofing.
Oh, wow.
Why wouldn't it be?
817-801 roof.
I know. I saw that in your truck that your phone number is literally in roof. I'm like, you've been around a long time when you can get roof as your number with the 817 area code. Thanks for joining. You will definitely be back in future episodes because we're just going to shoot and have some fun talking business. Thanks for joining.
Hey, appreciate it, man.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
Boom.